Aloha mai kako, hatsake. Hello, everyone. I have some very big news to share with you all about this channel and the future of our work, and I won't keep you in suspense as to what it is. Indigenous History Now is, as of a few weeks ago, a tax-exempt 501c3 nonprofit. We have organized as a nonprofit film studio. This is something we're all very excited about. The team and I have been putting in a lot of work on the back end over the last few months to make this happen, which is why things have looked rather slow around here recently. I can tell you it has been anything but slow on our side of the screen. There have been a lot of decisions we've had to make, a lot of planning things out and coordinating, a lot of people we've had to talk to, and then we got approved way faster than we were expecting, which we're super stoked about. We are months ahead of where we were expecting to be at this point, which is really nice. But it does carry with it its own list of tasks that we've had to move several months up the schedule, but that's a good problem to have. Anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We've made this decision for several reasons. Indigenous History Now is something that, from the very beginning, we've had very big dreams and aspirations for. Our long-term goal has always been for IHN to be a dedicated organization with paid staff and with the scale and capacity to produce well-researched, highly detailed, feature-length documentaries with good production quality. And to do this on a regular basis. We've thought a lot about the different paths we could take to get there, and ultimately decided that forming a nonprofit was the best move for us. The biggest reason that we chose this path specifically is our commitment to making all of our work free to access. All of the knowledge and information that we share, we believe should be much more widely known than it is. It should be common public knowledge. And there are reasons why it's not, namely that there have been decades to centuries-long efforts to suppress this information and make sure it's not general public knowledge. That's why for many of you watching, the stuff you learn here from us, you're learning for the first time. We weren't taught this stuff in school like we should have been because there have been people and forces throughout our history, and unfortunately still today, who didn't want us to learn this in school. So because of that, we here at IHN fundamentally believe that nobody should have to pay to access the knowledge that we share. That's why we are committed to never putting any of our work behind a paywall. That's why we publish our work on YouTube, where you can watch all of our films for free. We're currently building a website where we will also publish all of our work for free. I mean, you need to pay to access the internet, but we can't control that. We don't put up any additional payment barrier, and we are committed not to. That's why nonprofit felt like the appropriate route for us, because we're not in this for the profit. We're in this to share important histories and knowledge. We're in this for the sake of education and what we see as a public good. So organizing as a nonprofit is a statement of our commitment to making knowledge freely accessible. However, we do need some money to run this thing. We need to pay our bills and keep the lights on and keep the website up. We want to be able to travel and do on-location filming, in-person interviews, access archival media, and various other things that will improve the research and production quality of our work. So in order to do all of that and pay the staff that we need while not charging for the work that we do, we're going to be reliant on grants and donations. We do have a grant-seeking plan that we're already beginning to execute. We have a fundraising plan, but I'll talk about that in a few more minutes. First, I want to talk about our production schedule. Now that we have this fancy organization, what are we going to do with it? We have laid out a plan for the films that we want to publish within the next 12 months. We want to publish on a pretty regular schedule. We don't want to keep you guys waiting 6 months to a year between publications. Our ideal goal is once a month on the feature-length stuff. We also want to move into short-form content on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Most of you who are watching this are probably our long-form audience, but there are audiences who prefer short-form, and we want to make sure we're reaching out to them too. Some of you may have seen our infrequent attempts to post a On This Day in Indigenous History series, and we would like to restart that. It's a very hard thing to do with the small, all-volunteer crew that we have right now, though. At the same time, we are not going to sacrifice quality for a production schedule. Quality and education, and quality of education, are our highest priorities. So achieving our ideal schedule of once a month and being able to publish all the films I'm about to share with you is completely dependent on meeting our fundraising and hiring goals. If we're unable to get the resources and hire the people that we need, then some films are going to get delayed and others are going to get prioritized. But in a perfect world, this is what we have planned for you over the next year, in no particular order. We don't have titles for any of these yet, so these are our planned topics. We'll delve in one film into the Indigenous history of Vancouver Island, and in another into the Indigenous history of Okinawa. Both of these were audience suggestions, which we are very amenable towards. Okinawa is outside of our typical scope. We usually focus on Indigenous peoples within North or South America, and any part of the Pacific that has a connection to a North or South American nation. In other words, the United States' states and territories in the Pacific, and Rapa Nui because that's a Chilean territory. So Okinawa is outside of that scope, but it does have a history that strongly parallels much of what we talk about. Its history is one of an indigenous population contending against colonialism, and it intersects with US colonialism. And it was an audience suggestion, so we decided to make an exception. We are continuing our series of exploring the indigenous culture zones of North America. We began with the Pacific Northwest coast, and next we are moving on to California. We're very excited about that one. We're also planning a multi-part Intro to Linguistics and Language Learning series. This series is directed at a specific audience, and that is people who are trying to learn and revitalize an Indigenous American or Pacific language. Our Indigenous languages in this part of the world have been subject to centuries of targeted efforts to snuff them out and cease their use. Because of that, millions of people now have to learn as adults languages that they should have been able to grow up speaking as children. And on top of that, for most of these languages, the resources available to learners are not that accessible and not that approachable. They can be very difficult to get your hands on in the first place. And even when you can get access to them, they're often very difficult to understand. And that's because most of these resources were written for preservation and documentation, not for revitalization. They're designed to help people, mainly linguists, learn about the language, not learn to speak the language. So they can be very hard to work with for actual learners. In an ideal world, all of our resources for all of these languages would be way more accessible, and there are thousands of dedicated language revivalists working to make better resources for their languages. But in the meantime, many of you, if you want to learn your traditional language, are stuck with the resources you've got. This linguistics series is designed for people in that situation. It's designed to give you the tools you need to understand and work with the resources that you have and get you started learning your language. Then the last film we have planned is actually our first on the docket and highest in priority. We have already been working on this for about a year and a half now, and we're going to continue giving it all the time that it needs. But if we don't hit our fundraising and hiring goals, this is the film that's going to get prioritized above all the others. And we do have a working title for it, which is The United States Has Committed Genocide, and So Has Israel. As the title suggests, it's a two-part film, where we will explore the entire history of the United States and its precursor English colonies, and their policies and practices of genocide against Indigenous American peoples. The focus of this film is basically answering the question, did the United States commit genocide? And if so, how and why? Now, the answer to that question is an unequivocal yes, and we will explain why that is the case. We'll start the film exploring the concept of genocide, what it means, and where it came from. Genocide isn't just some dictionary-defined term, it is a legally defined crime encoded in an international treaty, the United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. So we will explore that law and demonstrate how the US's policies towards Indigenous peoples have violated that law and made the US legally culpable of the crime of genocide. Now, the concept of genocide is older than the Genocide Convention. The concept was not invented by the UN. The term was coined by a man named Raphael Lemkin, a Polish Jewish lawyer. He came up with the term and then lobbied the UN extensively to get it encoded into law. However, the concept of genocide as adopted in the Genocide Convention is much narrower than Lemkin's conception of it. And the reason this is the case was not born out from humanitarian negotiations to make an unruly conception more workable. It was just post-World War II, early Cold War great power politicking. The great powers basically wanted to make Germany look as guilty as possible while excusing themselves from some of the very same actions. And we'll talk about this. So we will explore the history of US genocide both through the lens of the Convention's definition and through the lens of Lemkin's original definition, and demonstrate how the US has committed genocide both in law and in spirit. Now, to explore in depth the whole 400-year history of genocide across the width of a whole continent would be too broad to do it any sort of justice. So we're going to focus on 4 main places and time periods as case studies of US genocide. Then from these case studies, we can mention other instances as examples of the pattern that we've explored in the case studies. Those case studies are 17th century English America in both New England and Virginia, the early 19th century Southeast, in other words, the Trail of Tears and the lead up to it, mid-19th century California, and the late 19th to 20th century boarding schools. Like I said, there are way more instances and time periods that we could talk about and probably will in other films, but to a certain extent, each unique instance in the history of US genocide is a variation on a theme. There is a pattern to the history of genocide in this country, and the point of this film is to understand that pattern, to understand that it happened, how it happened, and why it happened. And then we'll finish off the US portion by exploring whether or not the US is still committing genocide today. After that, once we have delved into the pattern of genocide throughout US history, we'll take what we learned and apply it to Israeli history, and we'll ask the same questions. Has Israel committed genocide? And if so, how and why? And we won't just focus on the last 2 years of the war in Gaza, but all of Israeli history. We'll explore the 19th century origins of the political movement of Zionism. We'll explore Zionist migration to Palestine in the Mandate period, the formation of the modern state of Israel, the Nakba, which for those of you who don't know is basically the Palestinian version of the Holocaust, and then continuing Israeli colonization in the latter 20th century up to the war of the last 2 years. The reason we're attaching these two together is because they are related. There are extensive and disturbing parallels between what we have all watched on the news the Israelis do before our very eyes over the last 2 years, and what, if you're an American, your ancestors were doing 150 years ago right here on the ground we stand on to indigenous people of this continent. The perpetrators of all the big genocides of the 20th century, the Armenian genocide, the Holocaust, the Nakba, and others, they all referenced the United States as examples. They all learned from us how to do an effective genocide. We here at IHN firmly believe that the study of history is not just meant to learn little tidbits and factoids about the past for interesting dinner conversation, but to learn about and better understand people and our own selves as people. We as individuals and societies absolutely do fall into patterns of thought and action that we do repeat. So if we can learn to see historical patterns as they played out in the past, we can learn to recognize them when they're happening before our very eyes, or when we ourselves are part of them. And then we have the ability to stop it, to change the course of history. And it's not just historical parallels that link these two genocides together. The US is actively funding and materially supporting Israel's genocide. Israel has an ongoing genocide case against it at the International Court of Justice. And if they are found, rightly, to be committing genocide, then the US will be culpable for complicity in genocide, which is another punishable crime under the Genocide Convention. Israel's decades-long genocide against Palestinians is very much an extension of the US's history of indigenous genocide. These two are intimately linked, not just in theory, but also materially. And we will demonstrate that through the film. This film is going to be very long and very heavy. We will pull no punches. We will censor nothing. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. There's a reason it's taken us this long to get as far as we have. It's very hard on us to make this as well, to delve into all of this material. But we believe it's important. We're not even going to try to monetize it on YouTube. We have no doubts that it would be swiftly demonetized. And for those of you who are unaware, we don't try to monetize things on YouTube for the money. We do it because YouTube promotes to more people videos that are monetized. So a monetized video will reach a wider audience faster. We have no doubts that YouTube isn't going to be very eager about promoting and suggesting this film, but we do think the information we are going to share is important. We would like it to reach as wide of an audience as possible. So when it comes out, if you watch this film, if you also find it important and valuable, please consider sharing it with other people so that they can find it. Those are our plans for the upcoming year. If you would like to see all of this come to fruition, we will need your support. We need to hire several people to make any of this possible, let alone all of it. And we need to invest in some new hardware and software to make our production quality better and bring our editing time down, because that takes way longer than you would think. We have set several fundraising goals that we are looking to hit. Our first is $50,000. That will allow us to hire our first full-time staff member and invest in a recording studio. Once we hit that mark, we've got another goal that allows us to hire a second person and a third goal that allows us to hire 2 more. If you have the means and would like to help us reach these goals, we are part of an upcoming community fundraiser. The Kitsap Great Give is a day of giving hosted by the Kitsap Community Foundation that promotes and helps bring in funds for nonprofits based in Kitsap County in Western Washington, which is where we are based. You do not have to be in or be from Kitsap County to give. You can give from anywhere. It's all online. The big day is March 10th, but early giving opens on March 1st. So in that 10-day period, you can visit our dashboard, link on screen and in the description, and donate. You can make a one-time donation or sign up for a recurring donation commitment. The upside to us being a nonprofit is that your contributions to us are tax deductible. And if you give through our Great Give portal, the system will provide you with a tax deductible receipt. If you have the means to, feel free to check out the other awesome nonprofits doing great things here in Kitsap County and support them as well. The Great Give website has a whole list of like 300 local nonprofits you can donate to. Like I mentioned before, we're working on getting our own website up. Once that's up, you'll be able to make one-time and recurring donations to us directly. We might have it up by March 1st, but we'll definitely have it up by the time the Great Give is done on March 10th. And then you'll be able to contribute to us whenever you like and whenever you're able. We will also post all of our films on the website, ad-free. They'll still be on YouTube, but you'll be able to find them on the website as well. And we'll post the scripts as well. So if you prefer to read rather than watch your educational material, you can do that. We do currently have a Patreon, but we're not certain whether we're going to keep it. We're deliberating on that one. There are some advantages to keeping it and some disadvantages. The main thing that I don't like about it is that it doesn't allow one-time donations, it's exclusively recurring, and it's got pretty high processing fees. Any platform we use to take donations is going to have processing fees. We can't get around that. But the Great Give site and our website have much cheaper fees than Patreon does. So I don't want to say go sign up for Patreon now if we're just going to nix it in a few weeks. There are a couple people on there already, but it's easier to migrate a dozen people off of a platform than 100. So if you want to support us, hold the phone on the Patreon. We may keep it, we may not, we have not yet decided. When we decide what we're going to do, we'll make a separate post about it, but we'll also put an update on this video in the description and in a pinned comment. We'll also do that when the website is launched. So if you're watching this video in a few weeks, go down to the description and comment section and see if there are any updates. So, if you're watching this video shortly after it's posted and you want to support us, the most immediate way to do so is give between March 1st and 10th of 2026 through our Kitsap Great Give portal. If you're watching this video a couple weeks after it's posted and our website is up, that will be the best and most permanent way to give to us. If you own a business or work at a company that does any sort of corporate giving, if it does matching donations or whatever, please consider including us in your corporate giving strategy. If you are unable to contribute financially but would still like to support our work, the best thing to do is A, make sure you're subscribed, and B, share this video with as many people as possible. Tell people about us, about our organization, about our work, and help us build our audience and network. If you'd like to contribute even further, you may be able to help us out with our research. If you know of resources you want to suggest that we check out in our research, if you are Indigenous to any of the areas we're focusing on this year, if you're native to Vancouver Island, if you're native Okinawan, if you're California Indian or Palestinian, and you have knowledge about your culture and history that you would like to share with us, for us to either factor into our research or share directly in the film, if you work in language revitalization and want to share things with us, please reach out. Our email address is on screen and in the description. Now, just a heads up, we don't know how many people are going to answer this call, so if a bunch of you reach out to us, it may take us a while to get back to you, but we'll do so as promptly as possible. That is everything I have for you now. We are very excited about the future of this studio. We are diligently working at putting our plans into action. Those of you who are longtime viewers and supporters, I and the whole team here at IHN thank you deeply for your being with us and watching our work, for all the kind words you leave us in the comments and the constructive suggestions that help us get better. You have inspired us to keep going more than you know when things on our end have been chaotic and downright miserable. And for those newly joining and newly subscribed, thank you for the vote of confidence. We'll have plenty of things to share with and learn from each other in the months to come, and I hope you all enjoy. A big thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time. Aloha!